What is that sound?
Don't ask questions.
Two, when I hit him.
We need to leave. We need to leave.
What's in there?
Do we?
Yes, we do.
Why?
Because of the guy in the back.
The guy in the back.
The guy that's currently running towards you.
Oh.
Oh, what is that?
Ribcage boy. Stop walking in front of me while I'm spearing.
I'm dead.
Because you were walking in front of me while I was spearing.
Welcome to the swamp, or should I say another cannibal-infested forest. After facing multi-legged monsters and sausagelings that fly, I thought I was finally done with creepy forests, only to be sucked back in. After many delays, does this game live up to the first game of the franchise? Let's find out. My name is Excalligator. I rate games based on many categories that would fit into most survival games, based on a 1 to 5 system. If a category does not apply, it will not affect the game's overall score. Now let us get started. So I played around 20 hours for this review on 2 different playthroughs, one on single player and one on multiplayer. I will also mention a few more times in this review that this is the early access and things said here are subject to change in the future. When the game comes out into the full release, I will re-review it at that time. Sons of the Forest is the sequel to the well-received The Forest, originally planned to release back in 2021, now finally out into the early access. Instead of a man and a son traveling on a plane, you are a member of some military group sent on a mission to find a rich family that has gone missing until something goes wrong. Now you have to survive. While you should be okay with a middle-of-the-road computer, I would recommend an above-average computer or better. Trust me, it's worth it. Just as the first game, there is no character creation. Every time you load in, you change into a different pre-made form, so this section is not going to be rated. What is he, deaf?
Yeah.
Well, I guess he won't hear the cannibals coming.
Why is he deaf?
Because representation. Just like the last game, there are many starting locations that change between servers that you play on. What's great is that depending on the location the game chooses for you, you get a completely different opening that will take place in the area you spawn. After the cutscene of the crashing, you will wake up with some starter items nearby, as well as another member of the crew that was with you called Kelvin. As you help him back up, you notice that his ears are blown out, so he is now deaf. You can give him commands by writing down on a notepad and letting him read it, which is a great way to have multiple dialogue, but you don't have to worry about voice acting. You can then have him follow you or gather things for you, which is very useful. After that, it's pretty much open. Unlike the first game, you do have a mini tutorial with a bare bones basic of the game, which is fine to me. It was enough to let you know how to do something, but not too hand-holdy. I think the intro is going to be a 4 out of 5. You can have a bad intro depending on the various factors, but overall it's not that bad.
I found you, Roomba!
It's
this
another
one has
Roomba.
Like a little tchotchke on him. Look at him! You just kicked him! Stop it!
I'm not touching him!
I'm talking about Miles.
He's over here for me.
When comparing this game to the first one, I feel the world is a little bit more full. In the older game, while you can find random camps every so often, the world itself felt a little bit barren and empty with a very few points of interest. This game is a step up in the right direction. While not fully immersive, there is a lot more to the map and more types of locations, from full-on forests to large open beaches. The mountains are larger than the first game. You can even find grasslands that used to be old golf fields. The map this time around is given to you from the start, and it allows you to look around while holding a GPS, so not only does it feel more immersive without the need to open a menu, but it also shows you the locations of all of the caves off the bat, which is fine by me, so that way you don't have to look at a third-party site. The map will even track homes you make, as well as other players and Kelvin. You will also notice several new markers too that will lead you to either a story location or an area with items of interest. Unlike the older game, your map won't reset if you die. One issue that could be fixed in the future is the lack of wildlife. I feel like there are less in this game, only having deer, moose, sharks, and a few critters. No crocs or lizards or boar like in the last game. Exploring in this game can be dangerous as you can easily run into scouting parties and war bands of cannibals and mutants.
For the night is dark and full of terrors.
Though it's not that bad if you keep moving. If you stay in the same location for too long, it will draw the attention of the locales, which will bring uninvited guests. And just like before, the longer you play, the stronger the enemies become. Searching points of interest will yield you unique items and all of the supplies you could ever need. General supplies will respawn after a few days or after a game reload, but unique items like various guns and tools will not. Now in the previous game, herbs and things you can loot from the forest itself was always randomized spawning locations per server, but once you find them, they were always in that spot. Here in this game, I wasn't really able to tell if that's the case or not, but I did notice I found aloe in the exact same spot across both of my servers, so I'm inclined to say that it's not the case this time around, but I'm not too sure. Overall, this section is going to be a 4 out of 5. It is fun to explore and find new locations with items to help you survive. It is a bit more enjoyable to explore this time around since the world feels more alive and full, but I also feel it's missing a couple of elements. I'm like above on the mountain. See me?
Yeah.
I see you.
Yeah, I see you.
Here, wait. I'm gonna jump down and see if the water's deep enough. I want you to catch me.
I don't think it's a question of the water being deep.
Well,
I,
It's a question
He
of
can-
the game spaghetti code.
well, he can pick me up if I die, so... I died. I didn't jump far enough.
you hit the land, you idiot.
No, I'm in the water, it's just too shallow. The survival really depends on a few factors, but really only boils down to the enemies, which will be covered in the PvE section. Besides that, you have a few meters to keep up, being food, water, and sleep. It seems that being out of any of them will not drain your health points, at least under the normal mode setting or easy mode setting. You can optionally set the game to have it take damage from you from a custom mode or just playing hard mode. Instead, if you play the game on normal mode, your 3 meters all average together to create a larger stamina bar. As one drains, your overall stamina drains. So it's not really required to keep your bars up, but it will make things a lot easier overall. Food is fairly easy to find or hunt. I never really had an issue with food. Same with the water. In the first game, all of the water sources were contaminated or dirty, so you needed to find fresh water to drink, typically rainwater. Here, all of the water sources besides the ocean are drinkable, with the exception of the winter, where they all freeze over. You have available water everywhere you go. With sleep, at first I had an issue because building your home drains it real quick, and I thought only sleeping would fix it and I didn't want to sleep every 5 minutes. But then I realized there is food and drink to help boost your sleep stat. Also, sitting in a chair will recover it, albeit slowly. You no longer have to worry about infection as it's been removed from the game, so no more baths. Something to note was, while I was playing, I complained the whole time about needing a hotkey system for my tools. Well, as I'm writing this review, they released a patch to add hotkeys to the game, and it's so much better with it. But that also tells you that there are a lot of things that I will mention in this review that will change in the future because it's, early access development. So I'm gonna rate this section a 3 out of 5. While you do have the option to turn on your stats to take damage if they reach 0, I feel it should also be in the default normal mode, because it makes survival a non-issue without it. It's fine for easy mode and for those players who just want a more relaxed experience, but I shouldn't have to make a custom mode for something that should be in the normal mode.
Oh. She's brought a gift!
She brought aloe.
Are you serious? Is that what that is?
That looks
She
like aloe.
brought us what?
Look, she has a plant in her hand.
She heard me. Kelvin, don't you dare! Kelvin!
Kelvin just runs by indiscriminately.
Why is Kelvin dropping it on the fire?
Yeah, she gave it to me.
Am I in your way?
She gave it to me. I'm her favorite. She going in the house? What are you doing? I feel like the building has gotten both a nice update, but is also lacking from its predecessor. While you still retain some blueprint items that all you have to do is bring the items and place them into the blueprint to build it, you do have a free build mode that will create items and buildings depending on how you place them down with any combination of any other items, or using your axe to shape it. For example, if you place a log down horizontally, you can make a foundation by adding more into a shape and then placing the logs down in the center, which will automatically turn into planks. You could also manually cut the logs into planks as well if you wanted, but having that automation is needed to make it less tedious. Now, if you place that log vertically, you can chop it down to make a shorter or taller wall or fence, followed by the option to sharpen the top of it to make it impossible for the enemy to jump over it. Meanwhile, you could have a stick, place it down to make a fire, or you could place it down vertically in order to make something else. If you use your axe, you could turn it into a spike, or you could put cloth on it as well as a skull to make a lamp. Optionally, you can place rocks around the base as well to make it more durable so it can't be tumbled over easily. A plus to the building is that you now have an AI companion who you could send to gather items for you and help out with the grind. Kelvin's story will be talked about a little bit later, but for now know that you can have him gather wood, food, and even build small things so you don't have to. It certainly helps a lot with the grind, especially as a solo player, so you can have him gather for you while you build. Just keep in mind there is only one Kelvin per server, and that includes multiplayer servers. The downside to the building is that it is a bit finicky. Also, there's not as many building pieces as there were in the original game. Of course, that can all change in the early access, but this is from the first week of playing it. The crafting is the same as the previous game. There's not really much change to it. You can right-click the various items in your bag to combine them into the middle. The gear cog in the center will help you give hints to making new various items, with more recipes being unlocked the more various items you collect. Something I did notice, and I don't remember if it was the case in the original game or not, is that when you select an item to combine, all other items will gray out besides other items that can combine with the first item. So it does help out to find the options faster in your bag. The farming, I feel, has been downgraded. Originally, you could make a large farming patch that you could plant many seeds to grow at the same time. Now it's down to a single plot that you have to keep making over and over in order to make a decent farm. The berries also seem to be useless this time around, as they barely give you any food stats. Also, plants like the aloe are much harder to find and even harder for the seeds, which makes it not really worth bothering farming them, especially when I find tons of pills around the world, so I don't really need to make medicine. But also, just as the first game, you don't have to water the plants when you do plant them. Overall, this section is going to be a 4 out of 5. The building is evened out from pros and cons with the new system, the crafting has been improved, and the farming is meh, but overall good.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's a
Kicked
big
my
guy.
ass. He kicked my ass.
It's a big guy. Wait, he's not
He's
moving.
Sliding.
He's sliding.
Damn it. No, that was...
See, this is why I want my bow.
I can't. Someone's shot.
Fuck! He swings too fast!
I got you. Miles, you hit me, jackass.
Come on.
The PvE, I'm conflicted on this section, so there are 2 points to cover, the enemy AI and the caves. But before we get into that, I also wanted to talk about a second companion in the game, Virginia, who early on you can find.
We already sort of know that.
What?
the
Hello? She's got
Guys,
she's got
there's
several
like
arms and
multiple
legs.
People.
Wait.
Oh my god, they climb trees. They climb
Michael,
trees
Michael,
now.
Michael, get over
Michael. She doesn't want anything.
Why
She's
does
running
she
away.
have... You see that guy climb trees? He can climb trees.
here. They always used to climb trees.
What's she pointing at?
Not like that.
Oh god. It takes some time for her to get used to you, but once she trusts you, you will be able to trade items, including clothing and even weapons. We gave her a gun and she was chasing cannibals and headshotting them, just like an attack dog. You can also give her a tracker, which comes in handy as she does have a mind of her own and will want to wander off at times to do her own adventuring. She can also come back from her adventures with gifts for you as well. The enemy, being the cannibals and the mutants, are half and half, meaning I feel that the enemy are improved in terms of reacting to the world and to you, make them feel more alive. They have more camps throughout the world. They still patrol and can raid your base. They can show fear when you intimidate them in the right way. They even try to outsmart you by reacting quick and unpredictable. They can now climb trees. They can jump from tree to either escape you or to ambush you. Sometimes you'll find them stalking you, sitting on a rock or in a bush, waiting for their moment to strike, or they'll head back to go get their friends and invite them over. While fighting them, you do have a chance to lop their limbs off, which they'll react to by grabbing the limb which had been severed and groaning on the ground until they eventually bleed out. Sometimes you can get them to fall down and pant rapidly in defeat, but if you leave them down long enough without finishing them, there is a chance they will get back up. And yes, headshots do instantly kill. What's more interesting is that if you attack one of their villages and kill somebody, there's a chance for a member of the cannibal tribe to run over and start crying over the dead body. Typically, it's the females that do this. Just as before, killing the females in front of males will buff them as they get quite angry. They also don't seem to be on the same team as mutants this time around, as you will find campsites where the cannibals have mutants tied up as prisoners. You can also see them fighting in the world at times. Speaking of, when you die in this game, there are a few things that can happen. First of all, while playing solo, if you die once, you'll be able to recover from it, which I'll explain in a moment. But if you die again rather soon from the first death, you will get a game over and return to your last save. While in the multiplayer, I haven't really seen any game overs, just respawns. But the respawns in this game are a lot neater and more of a quality of life than in the previous game. In the first game, when you died, you returned to the plane crash as the default respawn. In this game, if you die, it'll pick a nearby location for you to be teleported to and captured. You will have to escape by doing a button prompt. Your backpack with your items will also be nearby, but not where you died, so recovery is a lot easier. I've seen so far at least 3 different respawns, one where you're in an enemy camp tied up, one where you're in some kind of alien slime pod while you're in the caves, and also where you've been tied to a rock and thrown into the ocean to drown. To the mutants now. While they express some of the emotions that the cannibal have, mostly the feral ones that run around on all fours, the cave dwellers are blind and have to use their hearing to locate you. You will hear them making loud groaning sounds as a type of echolocation to try to find you. Just as the first game, you can also find creepy mutants that are something straight out of the human centipede. The only downside to the enemy NPC is that there is a lack of variety, though that is something that can change in the future, but as of right now, there are very few types of mutants and cannibals. That also goes for the caves. In the first game, the caves were large underground systems that winded and weaved with many corridors and areas to explore and find items and boss battles. Here, nearly every single cave I found was either just a single room with no enemies and very few lootable items. Meanwhile, only a few caves had any form of progression, and even then, it was watered down from the first game, which is a massive letdown. I'm going to give this section a 3.5 out of 5. The enemy AI bumped it up a lot, with half a point being removed from the lack of variety, and the fact that the caves are disappointments dropped it another point. I can only hope that these caves are somehow unfinished and will have more added to them as time progresses.
There's a floaty. I want to get in it. Alright, there's friendly fire, so just stop. Already. Stop.
He's already going at it. This game is not primarily PvP, however you can still friendly fire other players and structures. You are not able to loot other player items, nor can you host mega servers, so I'm gonna rate this a 3 out of 5. You can PvP, but there is no point to it other than to piss off the other players with you online.
Damn, full of this. Nice. Yeah, see? That was the image of them they found when they were looking.
The story delivery, I'm going to give a 3.5 out of 5. Off the bat, it is the same as most other survival games, where you find the story by searching the world map and finding items off the beaten path without being too much in your face. I only gave it a half a point up because of the improved cinematic opening to the game. Another email. Good news, we managed to find both the clubs and the golf balls.
Story's over. We finished the game.
As you start off the game, you are given a task to rescue a family of rich people. Then something hits your helicopter and you and only Kelvin survive, along with the other multiplayer characters. Then you are tasked with not only surviving, but trying to find the missing family at the same time. It is certainly a better opening than the first game. As I said in my older review, I didn't know what my motive was in the first game because it wasn't shown that well on what was happening. That being said, due to this game being in early access, it is highly possible that the story beats will change and grow throughout development, and I don't really feel comfortable rating this section just yet. I will also skip the spoiler section because of that. I'll cover it next time I review this game.
Definitely artifact looking. For me, you still have your axe in your hand. And we have the non-suspenseful, meme music in the back.
As of right now, when you beat whatever is available to you, there is not much more for you to do, unless you want to continue to build and explore areas you have not been to yet. The enemy also does get stronger the longer you play, so you can also just try to survive as long as you can with the enemy raiding your base and such. It is pretty much like the first game in that respect, so I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. There is no modding for this game, and it doesn't seem like there is any planned, so I'm gonna skip this section. As of right now, it's a bit too early to cover this game as it just came out only a week ago as of writing this review. However, there is something on the main page of the game where there's a spot that says when the next game update will be, and in how many days, giving an indication of the next game update. You also have the fact that they listened to the community feedback and hotfixed in the hotkeys within a few days of the game's launch, so I'm quite positive as to the direction of the updating of this game until its final 1.0 launch, but I'm not going to give it a score because I'm uncertain of how this trend will go in the future until that launch. My guy literally just went oof. Oh no.
So do you think we're ever gonna find the two people that we actually came here looking for?
Michael? So I found out you do not take falling damage if you fall with the sled, and I just died in the frozen water.
Well, I'm right next to you, thankfully.
I surprisingly had very few bugs and the occasional frame drops, mostly on the multiplayer where I had more frame drops than when I was on the single player. Even then, it did seem to randomly spike without a cause. It dropped to like 10 FPS for maybe a few seconds and then went right back up to 60. As for bugs, I just found the usual NPCs getting stuck, Kelvin being Kelvin, items going under the terrain, and in one play session, some friend icons didn't appear on the GPS, but we could still see them ahead of us no issue. Luckily so far, I've not run into any game-breaking or halting bugs like I did in the first game, which is a good sign. So I'm gonna go ahead and rate this section a 4 out of 5. Some minor issues, but overall not that bad. My overall score for this game is going to be a 3.5 out of 5. It is a very fun and immersive game with a lot of improvements from the original game. The issues are also from a lack of content comparing to the original game, so it's 50-50, better to worse ratio. Now this can all change in the future as I've mentioned before when this game comes out into the full release. I do plan on re-reviewing it then. If you are curious on seeing my review for the original Forest game, I will have a link to it in the outro for that review so you can check it out. Also be sure to subscribe to see more survival game reviews for early access and full releases. And that is the end of this video. If you liked my review, please subscribe to this channel as I will be making more in-depth reviews of open-world sandbox survival RPG games, including those that no one ever talks about from the deepest, darkest depths of Steam. Some games that even look like the muck at the bottom of my pond. If you have any suggestions for what game to do next, please comment below and like this video. Florida Gator Man out. Oh, there she is.
Oh, she's sitting by the fire.
Really funny.
Screenshot. What is that guy? Are you alright?
He's like,
Bones.
Oh, this is a graveyard, guys.
this is money.
This is a mass grave.
I don't care about that. It's money.
Oh, that's pleasant. Oh, look at that. Look at him. It's the slug. He's trapped. Look at him.
Why are you staring at the wall?
I'm gonna give him a hug.
I'm back up. I got it.
Nice.
Pinata. I just got an achievement. You get that?
Yeah, I got that.
Oh god, there's more of them here. Back up.
Yeah, we're engaging new enemies before we finish the old ones. Miles, I can't really help you.
Oh shit. I tried switching to my shotgun and it's out of ammo.